My name is Elena Ruiz. I am 38 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned the hard way, it's that blood doesn't mean loyalty. I used to believe that family, no matter how flawed, was sacred. That even when things got messy or complicated, there was still some invisible thread tying us together. But that illusion shattered the day my brother slapped my daughter in front of 100 people, and my parents laughed. I live in Aurora, Colorado, not far from where I grew up, though it feels like worlds apart. I work as a nurse practitioner, mostly handling pediatric cases in a small private clinic. I love what I do. It gives me purpose. It reminds me there's still some good left in the world, even if my own family does their best to convince me otherwise. My daughter Maya is 9 years old. Smart, loud, stubborn, and vibrant, just like I used to be before my voice got buried under years of silence. She's got this curly mass of dark hair and the kind of curiosity that exhausts people who prefer things quiet and neat. She asks too many questions. She talks too much. And she loves too hard. Just like her mother. If you're enjoying this story or you're curious to see what happens next, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. We love seeing how far our stories travel. I didn't want to go to my dad's retirement party. Everything in my body told me not to. The text came from my mom 2 weeks earlier. Your father's retirement dinner will be at the Westfield Country Club on the 22nd. 5 p.m. Family only. Wear something appropriate. No, please. No, hope you can come. Just another obligation. Another performance for the Ruizes. But Maya overheard the message and begged to go. Maybe Grandpa's different now, she said. Maybe they'll like me this time. I wanted to tell her the truth, how they only tolerate her because she's mine, and they've never forgiven me for keeping her instead of marrying her father, a man they handpicked and I walked away from. But how do you tell your child her own grandparents only smile when people are watching? So we went. The Westfield Country Club was everything I expected. Glossy, white tablecloth lies served with a side of champagne and carefully concealed resentment. The Ruizes were out in full force. My brother Marcus standing tall in his crisp military-style suit, the favorite son center of attention as usual. My parents flanked him like proud statues, glowing in his shadow. I stepped in with Maya beside me, wearing her favorite yellow dress and her best behavior. My heart was already in defense mode, scanning the room for escape routes, seating charts, anything that might keep us from becoming the night's punching bag. Marcus saw us first. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, look what the wind dragged in, he said, sipping his scotch. Didn't expect you to show. I'm here for Dad, I said. And Maya wanted to see everyone. She still talkin' a mile a minute? He asked, glancing at her like she was some stray dog. That girl's got a motor mouth on her. She's 9, I said, trying to keep it light. She's curious. Yeah, he muttered, walking away. That's one word for it. Dinner dragged on like a funeral with better food. The toast started. Marcus gave one, of course. Standing in front of the long mahogany table, mic in hand, glowing with self-importance. As Dad always taught me, lead with discipline, finish with honor. That's how I got where I am. That's what I teach my kids. And it's what I hope to see more of in our younger generation. The room applauded. Maya, oblivious to the tension, leaned over to me and whispered loudly, "That's funny. He told me yesterday that rules are for people who don't know how to lie." Some of the people near us laughed. A few looked scandalized. I chuckled, rubbing her back. Not so loud, baby. But it was too late. Marcus turned toward us, mic still hot. What was that? He barked. Maya shrank. Nothing. Marcus walked toward us slowly, eyes narrowing. What did you say? She was just, I started. And then in front of everyone he slapped her. Hard. Right across her cheek. The crack echoed louder than the background jazz. My whole world tilted. She's just like you, Marcus snarled into the microphone, not realizing it was still on. Like mother, like daughter. Both useless. People gasped. Some stood up. A woman dropped her glass. Maya clung to my arm, stunned, lips trembling. And then came my father's voice, a few seats down, careless and smug. Well, he said, chuckling, she needed to learn some shame. My mother laughed. Not loud. Just a soft, delighted chuckle like someone had told a clever joke. I looked around, searching for someone, anyone who might stand up and say something. But silence is its own kind of violence, and in that moment the room said everything I needed to hear. What they didn't realize, what no one realized, was that the mic was still live. Not just to the room, but to the courtyard outside, where a group of guests and staff were gathered under string lights, sipping wine and listening to the speeches over the speaker system. Every cruel word had been broadcast. I stood up, trembling but steady. "Don't you ever touch my daughter again," I said. Marcus laughed. "Or what?" I didn't answer. I picked Maya up, not physically but emotionally. I held her hand and we walked straight out of that room. No more explanations. No more waiting for an apology. No more pretending we were family. Back home, Maya crawled into my lap without a word. Her cheek was still red. She hadn't cried, she was too stunned to process it all. But I knew that look. I'd worn it at her age. The face of a little girl who just learned that love can be conditional. "I didn't mean to be bad," she whispered. "You weren't," I said, my throat burning. "You were perfect. They were wrong." "Do they hate us?" I paused. "They don't know how to love us, baby. That's different. But they don't get to decide who we are." She fell asleep on my lap. I sat in that silence for hours, replaying the scene again and again, his hand, her flinch, their laughter. Something inside me cracked wide open. All the years I spent swallowing rage to keep the peace, taking insults with a tight smile, disappearing in their presence so they wouldn't attack me, it all came back. But this time it wasn't me they hurt. It was my child. And that's when something changed. Around midnight I opened my laptop and logged into an old cloud drive I hadn't touched in years. Inside were dozens of saved voicemails, screenshots, emails, things I had tucked away and told myself I didn't need. Proof. Receipts. Memories I had buried to avoid being labeled bitter. I found the one from 2014, Marcus threatening my ex-husband after I refused to co-sign a loan for him. Another from 2017, Dad telling me to quit playing victim after Marcus pushed me at a barbecue and I hit my head. I opened a blank folder and began dropping files in. Then I opened Facebook and typed, "Tonight at my father's retirement dinner, my brother slapped my daughter in front of 100 people. He said, like mother, like daughter, both useless." My father laughed. My mother smiled. My daughter cried herself to sleep. If you've ever been silenced by family, if you've ever been gaslit into thinking you're the problem, please know you're not alone. This is the moment I stopped pretending we're okay. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The people who mattered would know exactly who I meant. And for the first time in my life I hit post without fear. I went back to check on Maya. She was curled under her blanket, thumb near her mouth, face still swollen but peaceful. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "I promise you, baby, they won't get away with this." I didn't know how yet. But I would make sure they felt what it was like to be humiliated. To be exposed. To be stripped of the power they had always used to keep me small. They started a fire they couldn't control. And I was done playing nice. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's hand flying toward Maya's face and heard that awful sound again. The slap, the silence, the laughter. I'd spent most of my life trying to believe that my family's worst moments were just mistakes. That they didn't know better. That deep down they cared. But when your child gets hurt and your parents laugh, there's no mistaking what that is. That's not ignorance. That's cruelty. By sunrise, my post had already taken on a life of its own. Over 3,000 shares, hundreds of comments. Old classmates, coworkers, even women I barely remembered from high school were commenting things like, "Elena, I'm so sorry. I always thought your family was intense, but this is awful. I know what it's like to be the scapegoat. Thank you for speaking out. You're not alone." I should have felt comforted, but I didn't. Not yet. I knew the calls would come, and by 9 a.m. my phone started buzzing non-stop. First it was my mother. Then Marcus. Then Dad's cell. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I took Maya out for pancakes. Her cheek was still bruised and tender, but her mood had brightened a little. She talked about a science project at school and whether we could get a dog. I smiled and nodded and let her talk because that's what she needed. To talk. To be loud. To be herself. Halfway through breakfast she looked up at me and asked, "Is Uncle Marcus going to jail?" I blinked. "No, honey. Not yet. But he hit me. Isn't that what bad people go to jail for?" My throat tightened. Sometimes. But the world doesn't always work the way it should. Are you gonna make it work better? I looked her in the eyes. Yes. I am. After dropping her off at school, I parked in the back corner of a grocery store lot, pulled out my laptop and opened the folder I had started the night before. Evidence, I'd titled it. Simple. Plain. Painful. Inside were years of silent documentation. Screenshots of texts from my mother saying things like, "You're too emotional to be a mother." Voicemails from my father yelling about my disrespect when I moved out at 19. One video clip, fuzzy and grainy, of Marcus yelling at his ex-wife at a family barbecue while my dad tried to pull him away, laughing the whole time. But what hit hardest was the voice memo from 3 years ago. Maya had just turned 6. Marcus showed up drunk to her birthday party and started arguing with me over a parking spot in front of the house. I'd accidentally hit record on my phone when I grabbed it to call my sister. In the recording, Marcus called me a waste of space, and told Maya to learn early that her mom was nothing but a second-rate dropout who got knocked up. That was the night I started locking the front gate. I dragged the audio file into the folder. Then I texted Chloe. "Elena, are you free today? I have something you should hear." She replied in less than a minute. "Chloe, yes. Come by my office." "And Elena, I saw your post. I'm with you. Let's do this." Chloe and I had gone to nursing school together, but while I stayed in healthcare, she pivoted to journalism after an injury took her off the clinical floor. Now, she worked for a Denver-based online outlet known for its local exposés. Her articles had brought down a corrupt city councilman and exposed a teacher sex scandal. She didn't play soft. Her office was cluttered, chaotic, and somehow still more organized than my entire life. "You brought receipts?" she asked the moment I walked in. I nodded, handing her a flash drive. She plugged it in, brows raised, and started scrolling. As she clicked on each file, texts, voicemails, the audio recording, her face changed. At one point she leaned back in her chair and muttered, "Jesus Christ, Elena. I've kept it all. For years. Just in case. This is more than just one slap. This is systemic emotional abuse. Decades of it. And Marcus? He's not just an asshole, he's dangerous. If you're serious about this." "I am," I said. "I want it all out. All of it." Chloe sat forward. "We'll need documentation. Names. Timelines. You ready for that?" "I've been ready my whole life." She nodded. "Hey, let's burn it down." By the time I got home, my inbox had 3 messages from Maya's school, all variations of "please call us back." Apparently, Marcus had shown up trying to drop off a gift. The office turned him away, but the audacity of it made my blood boil. I called the school immediately and requested they remove him, and both of my parents, from the authorized visitor list. Then I changed Maya's pickup password and added a private security code to her file. Marcus wasn't just violent. He was arrogant. And arrogant men make mistakes when they feel untouchable. That night, the silence in my house felt louder than ever. Maya was watching cartoons, but I couldn't relax. Every time I looked at her, I saw that moment again, her flinch, her tear, her confusion. And the echo of my father's voice. She needed to learn some shame. That was the part one couldn't forgive. Because that wasn't just about Maya. That was about me. That was about every time I'd spoken out as a girl and been punished for it. Every time I questioned the rules, challenged the boys, refused to obey, and was labeled difficult. That shame he spoke of wasn't discipline. It was control. I pulled out a notebook and began writing a list. Every incident. Every memory. Every quote I could recall with accuracy. 2001. Marcus punched a hole in my bedroom door when I told Mom I didn't want him at my graduation. No one punished him. 2006. Dad said, "You're only 22 and already a single mom. We told you that man would ruin your life." 2015. Mom told Maya she talks too much and should try being invisible, like a proper little lady. I filled 3 pages before I stopped to breathe. Then I opened Facebook. Marcus had posted a statement. "We all make mistakes in our families. What happened last night was taken out of context. My niece was screaming during a speech and startled me. I reacted poorly. My sister has a history of exaggerating situations for sympathy. I love my niece and would never intentionally hurt her." The comments were a mess of supporters and critics. People asking for the video. People defending me. People attacking both of us. I didn't respond. I let Chloe handle that. The next day her article dropped. Behind the facade, the Ruiz family and the hidden pattern of abuse. It was brutal. Honest. Filled with documented proof. She included my voice recordings, the screenshots, a blurred photo of Maya's bruise with my consent. She cited interviews from Marcus's ex-wife, who shared her own history of being threatened and manipulated. Within 3 hours, it hit the front page of the local news aggregator. By evening it was trending regionally. My phone exploded again. Reporters, lawyers, old acquaintances. A non-profit group offering therapy sessions for Maya free of charge. And then came the real call. The one I'd been waiting for. Marcus. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. The 6th time I picked up. Elena, he barked. What the hell did you do? I told the truth. You're ruining my life. My job's on the line. My kids are being asked questions. You need to shut this down now. I laughed. For the first time in days it wasn't bitter. It was clean. Freeing. You should have thought of that before you hit my daughter and laughed about it like a psychopath. You think anyone's gonna believe some edited story from a bitter single mom? They already do. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, You've always been poison. No, Marcus, I said, calm as ice. I was the antidote you ignored. And I hung up. That night Maya and I sat on the couch watching cartoons again. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. Is it over? She asked. Not yet. But we're close. Will I have to see them again? Not if I can help it. She paused, then whispered, Good. I hugged her tight, kissed her head and stared at the window, watching the wind stir the leaves. For years I tried to protect Maya by keeping quiet. By walking away. By choosing peace over confrontation. But now I realized, peace built on silence is just a cage. And I was done being caged. Let them burn. I was just getting started. The first time I realized my parents would rather protect a lie than their own child, I was 10. Marcus had thrown a rock at my face because I refused to give him my turn on the Sega. It split my eyebrow open. Blood everywhere. I screamed so loud the neighbors heard. But when my mom rushed in, she didn't ask what happened, she asked what I did to make him mad. That night, while my head throbbed under a butterfly bandage, I overheard her whisper to my dad, Boys get rough. She needs to learn not to provoke him. It's funny the things you try to forget until life drags them back, kicking and screaming. Now, 3 decades later, Marcus's face was on the evening news. A blurry image next to the headline. Decorated veteran accused of abuse in explosive family allegations. The article Chloe published was spreading fast. She'd been strategic, pulling only what she could back up with hard proof, leaving the rest for the follow-up piece she was already outlining. I hadn't even told her everything yet. I was pacing myself. I wanted them to sweat. Marcus had gone full damage control. A second post on Facebook appeared that morning, this time a video. He was seated in his pristine home office, American flag behind him, a photo of his kids perfectly placed over his shoulder. My sister is going through some emotional struggles, he began, wearing that same fake concern I'd seen him use on girlfriends and cops. I love her and I love my niece. I never meant to hurt either of them. We were at a family gathering. Emotions ran high. I've apologized privately and I hope we can all move forward. He hadn't apologized. Not privately. Not publicly. Not even a text. But I wasn't surprised. Marcus had always been the king of image management. Charm was his weapon, and the truth was just clay he molded to fit whatever mask he needed to wear. The comments under his video were split. Half support, half outrage. Then someone shared the audio clip of the slap, ripped from Chloe's article, and the tide started turning. I can't believe this was over a child speaking, one commenter wrote. Sounds like someone's mask is slipping. He didn't sound sorry. He sounded smug. Still some stood by him. That's how it always goes. Abusers have fans. It's how they survive. I wasn't aiming to convince everyone. Just enough to make sure he didn't walk away unscathed. The call I got next wasn't from a reporter. It was from Patricia, Marcus's ex-wife. Elena, she said quietly. I saw the article. I hadn't spoken to her in over 5 years. Not since she left Marcus and moved to Wyoming with their 2 boys. I always thought she hated me, maybe because I didn't say enough. Maybe because I didn't say anything at all. I should have said something, I blurted, voice tight. Back then, when I knew what he was like. No. Don't apologize, she cut in. You were surviving same as me. Silence stretched between us. I'll talk, she said finally. I'll give you a statement. I kept copies of everything. Texts, emails, the custody fight. I want people to know what he really is. You sure? I asked. I should have done this a long time ago. I hung up feeling heavier and lighter at the same time. The dam was breaking. Later that afternoon, Chloe sent me a text. Chloe, can you come in tomorrow? I want to record a video interview. Nothing flashy. Just you. Your voice. Me, yeah. Let's do it. I stood at the kitchen counter after sending that text, just staring at the worn tile, fingers clenched tight. I knew that going on camera meant crossing a line. One that would destroy whatever fragile illusion of family we still had. But that illusion had already burned the night Marcus hit Maya. I opened the cabinet where I kept Maya's drawings. There was one I hadn't looked at in a while. 2 stick figures, one taller than the other, both wearing capes. She'd written me and Mommy. We save people. I wasn't sure about saving people. But I was damn sure I could bury the ones who tried to hurt us. That night my parents showed up at my door. They didn't call. Didn't text. Just pulled into the driveway like it was any other Sunday visit, like we hadn't crossed into war. I opened the door halfway and stepped outside, closing it behind me. Go home, I said. My father's face was red. His hands trembled with the restraint of someone not used to being told no. Elena, my mother started, putting on her soft, breathy voice. This has gone far enough. You laughed when my daughter was hit. She was being disrespectful, she replied sharply, dropping the act. You let her speak out of turn. You always encourage that. She's a child, I said. She's allowed to talk. My father stepped forward. You're embarrassing us. This is a family matter. You don't air it like dirty laundry for strangers to chew on. It stopped being private when Marcus slapped her in front of 100 people. He sneered. Marcus is the only reason our name means anything. You've always been jealous of him. Jealous. I let out a short, bitter laugh. I've been terrified of him since I was old enough to walk. But sure. Let's call that jealousy. You're going to destroy this family. No, I said. You already did. I'm just turning the lights on so everyone else can see the mess. They left without another word. My mother crying. My father muttering about betrayal. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. The interview with Chloe was raw. She asked open-ended questions. She let the camera run. I didn't read from notes or prep a speech. I just talked. I talked about growing up afraid of my brother's temper. About the time he shoved me into a wall and my dad told me to learn not to provoke him. About how my mother used to tell me, no man will ever love a loud woman. About how I learned to shrink myself before I hit puberty. And then I talked about Maya. I told the world what it feels like to watch history repeat itself. Your own pain mirrored on the face of your child. When the interview went live, it reached over 200,000 views in a day. Women started messaging me nonstop. Some shared stories of their own. Some just said thank you. Then came the offers. Legal help. Therapy scholarships. TV interviews. I declined the networks. I wasn't doing this for fame. I wasn't trying to become a spectacle. I just wanted Maya to know that her voice mattered. That mine did too. But not everyone was moved. My cousin emailed me. You could have kept this in the family. You didn't have to ruin everyone's life over one slap. One slap. That's how they always minimize it. They don't see the slap as part of a chain. A history. A culture. They see it as an accident. A fluke. But abuse is never a fluke. It's a system. A machine that feeds on silence. I wrote back. One slap is never just one slap. And if you think it is, you're part of the reason it keeps happening. On Friday afternoon I got a letter in the mail. Legal notice. Marcus was suing me for defamation. Of course he was. I read it over 3 times trying to feel afraid. But instead I laughed. Because now it was official. Now it was public. Now I could bring every shred of evidence into court. Chloe was already preparing to release the second article. This time with Patricia's full testimony. And I had just received an anonymous Dropbox link that included a video of Marcus screaming at a waitress during a family cruise. It was time-stamped. He was drunk. He called her a stupid little whore in front of a dozen witnesses. The person who sent it? One of Marcus's former co-workers. Apparently, the video had been quietly passed around the office for years. It was over for him. But not for me. Because I was just beginning to understand what power felt like. Not power over people. Power over my story. The next Monday I went to the courthouse and filed a restraining order. Not just against Marcus but against my parents too. I showed them the documentation, the pattern, the enablers, the damage. The clerk behind the glass window didn't even blink. "You're not the first to come in here with a story like this," she said softly. "But you're one of the few with proof." As I walked out of the courthouse, Maya called. "Can we get pizza for dinner?" she asked. "Of course," I said, smiling. I told my teacher what happened. She said I was brave. "You are," I told her. "You're the bravest person I know. Are you still fighting the bad guys?" I looked up at the sky, blue and stretched wide above me. The weight in my chest felt lighter than it had in years. "Yeah, baby," I said. "But I'm winning now." And for the first time in a long time I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. And I wasn't going to stop until there was nothing left of their lies to stand on. I didn't even flinch when I got the subpoena. In a past life, before I grew teeth, Marcus suing me would have sent me into a spiral. I would have panicked, apologized, maybe even tried to undo the damage just to keep the peace. But not anymore. Not after the slap. Not after I watched my daughter clutch her face and look at me like I had all the answers. I didn't back down this time. I booked a lawyer the same day. A woman named Jacqueline Burns, sharp-tongued, clean-cut and known for her work on abuse cases. The minute I sat across from her and opened the folder titled Receipts, she didn't look away. She didn't flinch. She listened. Then she said, "They picked the wrong woman to silence." For the first time in weeks, I let out a laugh that didn't feel like a survival tactic. I handed her everything. The texts, the recordings, the timeline I'd spent nights building, color-coded with dates and details no one could argue with. I even gave her a list of potential witnesses. Not all of them would testify, but enough had reached out in private that I knew some would stand beside me when the lights came on. Marcus's defamation suit was flimsy. He was counting on me to fold. Counting on the word lawsuit to scare me into silence. He didn't understand what it's like to be backed into a corner your entire life. Eventually you start using the walls to push back. While Jacqueline drafted our countersuit, Chloe dropped the second article. A house of control. More voices come forward against Marcus Ruiz. Patricia went on record. So did one of his former colleagues and an old friend from the army who said Marcus used fear and intimidation like tools in a toolbox. They told stories of threats, blackmail, and fists slammed into walls just out of reach. Enough to scare but not to scar visibly. The image he'd spent a lifetime building, a decorated veteran, a family man, a pillar of the community, began to rot at the edges. His sponsors dropped him. His speaking gigs were cancelled. The non-profit board he sat on suspended him pending further investigation. He posted another video, this time with his wife standing beside him, stiff and wide-eyed, clearly coached. "Everyone makes mistakes," he said into the camera. "But this cancel culture, this obsession with tearing down a man's life over one incident, is toxic. My sister has always struggled with emotional stability." And there was the final nail in the coffin. He called me unstable. They always do. Any woman who dares to speak. To expose. To remember. We're not survivors, we're hysterical. Unhinged. Crazy. Except I had proof. I had people. And I wasn't alone anymore. What Marcus didn't realize was that every word he spoke, every denial, every smear, only fed the fire. The more he tried to paint me as delusional, the more people dug into the facts. Chloe's inbox flooded with tips. Screenshots. Old videos. Some anonymous. Some not. One clip showed Marcus at a bachelor party, drunk and screaming at a waitress, just like the video from the cruise. Another came from a woman he dated for 6 months. Text messages filled with threats when she tried to leave him. I didn't need to destroy his reputation. He handed me the matches. Meanwhile, my parents were spiraling. My mother sent a long email filled with scripture, guilt, and vague threats about what Maya will think of you when she's older. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Jacqueline. She added it to the file. Then they tried to contact Maya directly. A letter. Folded neatly into an envelope, slipped into her backpack by someone during after-school pickup. The handwriting was unmistakably my mother's. The return address was their house. Maya handed it to me that evening saying, "I think Grandma wants to talk to me." I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were 2 pages of emotional manipulation. Telling Maya she missed her, that she still loved her, that grown-ups fight but that doesn't mean children should stop loving their family. She ended it with a drawing Maya had made years ago. A family sketch Maya once gave her that she'd kept and now photocopied, circled in red marker like a talisman. I reported it to the court immediately. The judge issued a temporary protective order the next day, extending to Maya and the school. I increased security measures at pickup, changed routines, told the principal everything. And then I sat Maya down and told her the truth. Not everything, but enough. Sometimes people who are supposed to protect us don't. And when that happens, we have to protect ourselves. She nodded slowly. Grandma says she still loves me. I know. But love isn't just words, Maya. Love is how people treat you. Love is safety. And I will never let anyone make you feel unsafe again. Even if they're family? I held her face in my hands. Especially if they're family. Court was scheduled in 3 weeks. The build-up was exhausting. Phone calls. Statements. Witness lists. I was preparing for war in a battle I never wanted against people who used to tuck me in at night. But the night before our first court appearance, something unexpected happened. A woman I didn't recognize knocked on my door. She was maybe in her late 50s. Soft gray sweater. Nervous eyes. "Are you Elena?" she asked. I hesitated. "Yes." She handed me an envelope. "I worked with your father. At the insurance firm. Retired last year. I saw the news. I thought you should have this." I opened it after she left. Inside was a handwritten note. And a printed HR report from 2 years ago. My father had been investigated for disciplinary intimidation. The report detailed how he'd berated a junior female staffer for taking maternity leave, calling her a drain on company time. It had been quietly closed. He retired 6 months later. I added it to the folder. The dominoes were falling faster now. They thought I'd break under pressure. They didn't realize pressure is what made me. Court day came. I wore a navy blazer and low heels. No makeup. No dramatics. I wanted the truth to wear its plainest face. Marcus showed up with a lawyer in a suit that screamed money. He smirked when he saw me. He thought this was still a game. But the moment Patricia walked in behind me and sat down at our table, his expression cracked. Then his ex-coworker. Then the former neighbor who remembered the night he screamed at Maya during a backyard barbecue. One by one we lined up. Not as victims. As witnesses. As proof. He didn't just hit a child. He lived a pattern. A system. And now it had a name. We didn't finish that day. There would be more hearings. More filings. But something shifted in that courtroom. The judge's face when he heard the recordings. The way Marcus's attorney stopped objecting halfway through the third testimony. They knew. Everyone knew. And when I stepped outside and saw the cameras, I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The truth was loud enough on its own. That evening, Maya ran into my arms like nothing had ever happened. Like the world hadn't tried to shatter us. We ate dinner on the couch. He told me about a spelling bee coming up. I told her I'd be in the front row. She asked if we could make cupcakes for her class next week. Normal. Sweet. Quiet. Then she looked up and said, "You were brave today." I smiled. "So were you. Do you think the bad people will stop now?" I paused. Maybe. Maybe not. But even if they don't, we're stronger now. And we have people who believe us. He nodded thoughtful. "I'm glad you didn't stay quiet." "Me too, baby. Me too." Later that night I stood alone in the backyard. The air was cold, crisp. Clean in a way it hadn't felt in years. I thought about the girl I used to be. The one who swallowed pain like communion, who apologized for being too loud, too sensitive, too much. I buried her long ago. But I finally understood. She wasn't weak. She was surviving. Now she was free. And ready to finish what they started. The judge requested a recess. 2 weeks to review evidence, hear closing statements, and render an initial judgment on the defamation case. Marcus thought that was a good sign. I could see it in his face when we left the courtroom. He still believed that this was a temporary setback. That once the dust settled, the world would forget. They always did for him. But I wasn't worried about the judge. I was worried about the shadows that still hadn't seen the light. There was one door left unopened, one I had been avoiding for a reason. And if I was going to bring down every last stone of the house that raced me, I had to walk through it. So I did. I drove to a storage unit I hadn't touched in years. It was 15 miles west, tucked in the back of an industrial lot, surrounded by rusted fences and rows of forgotten things. I kept it under my middle name. Paid it in advance for 5 years. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a box. One box. Duct-taped shut, yellowing at the edges. I carried it to the car, my heart a steady thud of warning. Inside were the things I hadn't had the strength to destroy. Photographs. Letters. A battered journal I kept at 17. And a flash drive. I almost didn't plug it in. But I did. And there was a video I'd recorded one night in college. My final Thanksgiving at home. I was 20. Marcus was already out of the military, back home and riding the wave of being honorably discharged, though we all knew there was more to it. That night he got drunk. Not tipsy, gone. He cornered me in the kitchen, yelling about how I'd embarrassed the family by going to school out of state, by dating a black guy he didn't approve of, by not knowing my place. Called me a whore. A traitor. Shoved me into the pantry door. What he didn't know was that my phone had been recording the whole thing, audio and all. I hadn't planned it. I was just trying to protect myself. I'd forgotten I even saved it. But now, hearing his voice again, slurred, venomous, I realized this wasn't just another incident. It was the moment I left for good. And it would be the nail in his coffin. I sent the file to Jacqueline. Within an hour she replied. This changes everything. The next week, Marcus held a press conference. Small. Controlled. Friendly media only. He stood there in a gray suit, chin lifted, trying to look noble. My sister is exploiting our private family pain for attention, he said. These are personal matters being twisted into character assassinations. I've served this country with honor, raised my children with love, and I will not be painted as a villain by someone who can't let go of old grudges. I didn't watch it live. I didn't need to. I was preparing my own public move. Chloe released a third article. This one focused on my father. She'd done her digging. Public records, complaints, even a quiet payout to a former secretary from 1999. Sexual harassment swept under the rug. A non-disclosure agreement signed. Chloe didn't publish the woman's name, but the story was airtight. The internet exploded again. Now it wasn't just Marcus under scrutiny, it was the Ruiz name. A family image carefully crafted, now unraveling in real time. My mother called again. I picked up. Elena, she said, voice cracked and breathless. You're killing us. No, Mom, I said. I'm just telling the truth. What do you want from us? It was the first time she'd ever asked that. I didn't answer right away. I thought about it. About everything I could say, an apology, an acknowledgement, an ounce of shame. But that wasn't what I wanted. I want you to sit in what you created, I said. I want you to feel it. You're tearing the family apart. There was nothing to tear, I said quietly. It was already broken. You just kept pretending. She didn't say goodbye. Just hung up. 3 days later, Patricia called. He tried to show up at my house, she said, voice shaking. The kids were at school. I think he just wanted to scare me. But I called the cops. He left before they arrived. She was filing for a restraining order. It made headlines. More trouble for Marcus Ruiz as ex-wife files protection order. Sponsors dropped him. A charity he helped found erased his name from their website. His lawyer filed a motion to delay the court date, claiming media bias, mental health strain, and public persecution. The judge denied it. Maya was watching cartoons in the living room the morning I got the news. My father had a mild stroke. They said it happened in his sleep. Not fatal. Just enough to scare everyone. My mother texted me, "You did this." For a moment I felt nothing. Then I felt freedom. Because for once it wasn't mine to carry. The guilt, the shame, the weight of it all. It was finally sliding off my shoulders. I didn't cause that stroke. But maybe, just maybe, the truth did. I tucked my phone into a drawer. Maya came into the kitchen asking for pancakes. We made them together. She asked me if we were still going to court. Yes, I said. Will they be mad? They already are. She tilted her head. Does that make you scared? No, I said. It makes me sure. At the final hearing, the courtroom was packed. Press lined the sidewalk. Spectators filled the benches. Marcus sat stiffly, jaw clenched, pretending he hadn't lost everything. But his eyes flicked toward me every few minutes, uncertain, rattled. I sat beside Jacqueline, hands folded. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then he read the decision. Marcus's defamation suit was dismissed with prejudice. The countersuit, intentional infliction of emotional distress, was moving forward. And a restraining order was granted on behalf of both me and Maya. There was a beat of silence after the verdict. Then it hit him. He had lost. Not just legally, but publicly, irrevocably. He stood up, tried to say something to the judge. Was silenced. When he turned to look at me, it was the first time I saw him without his mask. Powerless. And then he walked out. Just like that. Outside, reporters swarmed. Cameras. Microphones. Questions. I held Maya's hand tightly. I wasn't there for the media. I was there to walk my daughter through the storm. One reporter shouted, "Elena, do you feel vindicated?" I paused. Then I said, "I feel free." That night I opened the last email from my mother. No apology. Just bitterness. "You are always too much, Elena." I clicked delete. Then I blocked her number. For good. The next morning Maya ran into my room with a huge grin. "I won," she said. "You what?" "The spelling bee." "I won the spelling bee." I pulled her into a hug, laughing, crying, overwhelmed. We danced in the kitchen barefoot to no music. I looked at her face, the joy, the fire, the light. No more bruises. No more silence. Just a girl who believed in herself because her mother did too. Later that week I got a call from the local women's shelter. They wanted me to speak at an event. To share my story. To talk about breaking the cycle. I said yes. And when I stood at that podium, heart pounding, I looked out into a room full of women. Some with bruises, some with scars, all with stories. And I said, "You are not crazy. You are not alone. And you are not powerless." The applause shook me. But what mattered most was the moment afterward, when a woman with shaking hands walked up to me and said, "You gave me the courage to leave." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about redemption. Rebuilding. Reclaiming. Marcus left town. He moved 2 states over. His name still circulates in small, bitter corners of the internet. His defenders have gotten quieter. His reputation is a cautionary tale. My father recovered partially, but his influence never did. My mother sent a card on Maya's birthday. I tore it up before Maya could read it. We're building new traditions now. Better ones. Ones that don't hurt. People ask me if I ever regret going public. If I regret dragging family secrets into the light. And I always say the same thing. What's kept in the dark doesn't disappear. It grows. We don't owe our silence to the people who broke us. We owe our truth to the people we're trying to protect. To the daughters watching. To the little girls inside us who were told to be quiet. Not anymore. Not ever again. Spring came fast that year. It was like the world was trying to make up for the winter we just survived. Buds on the trees, birds in the windows, and a sun that lingered a little longer in the sky. Everything felt new, like the earth itself was telling me it was okay to breathe again. But healing isn't quiet. It's not calm. It doesn't come with soft music and warm baths. Healing is violent. It rips open the things you buried and forces you to look. To feel. To choose yourself in a way you never had the freedom to do before. And that's what I was doing now, choosing. Choosing myself. Choosing Maya. Choosing to live free of the grip my family had clenched around my throat since I was old enough to speak. We were almost at the end of the legal proceedings. Marcus had gone radio silent after the judge allowed the emotional distress countersuit to proceed. His attorney filed paperwork, but Marcus himself never appeared again. He didn't even show for the mandatory mediation. A no-show. He was unraveling quietly now. But my parents, they weren't going down without a final strike. It started with an anonymous tip to Child Protective Services. Someone claimed Maya was living in an unstable home. That I was exposing her to public scrutiny. That I was coaching her to lie about family members for social media clout. I knew who sent it. I didn't even need proof. That kind of venom only lives in a mother who refuses to admit she created monsters. When the CPS worker showed up, she was kind but careful. She asked to see the house. Maya's room. Our fridge. Our routines. I complied with every request, calmly, openly. I had nothing to hide. I sat at the kitchen table while Maya played in the backyard and told her everything. The abuse. The court. And the letter my mother tried to sneak into Maya's school. When I was done, she looked at me and said, "This isn't the first time I've heard about retaliation from relatives during a case like this. You're not the problem, Ms. Ruiz. You're the one breaking the pattern." I didn't cry until she left. I stood at the sink washing a cup and just crumbled. Not because I was afraid, but because for once someone in authority saw me. Saw what I was trying to do and didn't twist it into an accusation. Maya came in as I was drying my face with a dish towel. "You okay, Mommy?" "I am now," I said, pulling her into a hug. "I really am." The CPS report was closed within 10 days. No evidence of harm. No follow-up required. I sent a copy of the official findings to Jacqueline, who just replied, "Your mother's games won't last much longer." And she was right. Because the next day my father's name came up in a local exposé. A different journalist, not connected to Chloe, had done his own digging. The harassment settlement. The promotion deals he secured through backroom favors. The way he used Marcus's military service to leverage public sympathy and political connections. It was all out now. My family wasn't just falling. They were being seen. Stripped of the myths they clung to like armor. And what was left behind? Rot. Just rot. That weekend, Maya was invited to a sleepover, her first since everything happened. She was nervous, but she wanted to go. "You can say no," I told her. "I'll never be mad." "I want to try," she said, clutching her overnight bag. "I feel safe now." And there was. All the court appearances. The interviews. The therapy sessions. The fire I walked through. It was so she could say that. I dropped her off at a classmate's house and drove back in silence. The house was too quiet without her. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a long bath. No phone. No email. Just water and steam and a silence I chose. And when I came out, I checked my inbox. That's when I saw it. An email from my father. No subject line. No greeting. Just 6 words. "You got what you always wanted." I stared at it. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just tired. Tired of the way they turned everything into a weapon. As if my peace meant their punishment. As if the fact that I survived was proof that I was out for blood. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. They had already lost. 3 weeks later, the settlement came through. Marcus agreed to pay damages. Modest but symbolic. He didn't apologize. Of course he didn't. But accepting responsibility, even indirectly, was more than I ever thought possible. Jacqueline called me the morning the paperwork was finalized. "You did it, Elena." "We did it," I said. "No," she replied. "You carried this for years. I just helped hold the door open." I hung up and stared at the stack of forms on my kitchen table. A small check. A signed order. A line that read, "Plaintiff Marcus Ruiz acknowledges the pattern of harm caused to defendant and her minor child, and agrees to refrain from further contact." I made a copy. Then I lit the original on fire. I watched the ashes swirl in the kitchen sink. It was done. I started sleeping again. Not the half-sleep I used to get. One ear open, always alert, always bracing. I slept deep. Heavy. Safe. Maya began humming again. Throwing more. Laughing louder. She had always been sunshine, but now she was unfiltered. One day she came home from school and said, "I told the new girl she doesn't have to be quiet just because some people don't like noise." I smiled. She was becoming the kind of girl I used to be before they tried to break me. The kind of girl who takes up space. The kind who knows she's allowed to. The house started to feel different. Warmer. I got rid of the old furniture I inherited from my parents' garage. Painted the walls a new color. Sage green, peaceful and soft. I even started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee. Conversation. Someone who asked me questions and actually listened. No raised voices. No power games. Just quiet respect. It felt foreign. But good. Like I was learning how to be human again, not just a survivor. Then something happened I didn't expect. Patricia invited me to her son's birthday party, Marcus's youngest. I hesitated at first, but I said yes. When we got there, Maya ran off to join the other kids. Patricia hugged me tight, the kind of hug that says we made it out. I wasn't sure if you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure either. We stood near the cake table watching the kids play. I keep thinking about how close we were to letting them win, she said. But we didn't. No, she said. We didn't. Then she reached into her purse and handed me something. A folded sheet of paper. A photo. It was old, grainy. Black and white. It showed my parents, young, sitting on a porch, smiling. But behind them in the corner was Marcus, about 12 years old. And next to him, me, tiny. Eyes wide. Lips pressed shut. You always looked like you were waiting for something, Patricia said. Like you were holding your breath. I nodded. I was. I hung the photo in my room. Not as a tribute. As a reminder. Of what I survived. Of what I won't repeat. People still whisper about us sometimes. At the grocery store. The dentist. Online. That's the woman who took down her whole family. They think it's gossip. But I think it's truth. Because that's exactly what I did. I burned the rotting house to the ground. Now, Maya and I are building something better. Brick by brick. Boundary by boundary. Louder than ever. If this story moved you, or made you think twice about what we call family, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Let's keep the conversation going.